In the 1970s, Jacksonville exploded into something the South had never seen. Overnight, one city sprawled across all of Duval County, skyscrapers rose along the St. Johns River, military jets roared overhead, and houses sold for just $40,000. Locals called it progress. But this new Jacksonville carried costs and opportunities most never saw coming. What did prosperity mean, and who paid the price? Downtown Jacksonville in the early 1970s buzzed with the energy of a city determined to prove itself. After the 1968 merger of city and county, the skyline began to climb, each new tower a promise of possibility. The Gulf Life Tower, finished just before the decade began, stood as a 20-story beacon on the South Bank, its clean lines and glowing sign visible for miles along the St. Johns River. Soon, the Independent Life Building and River Place Tower joined the city's vertical march, each one taller, each one a little more ambitious. KBJ architects drew up plans for modern towers that would rival those in Atlanta or Dallas, giving Jacksonville a new silhouette that locals pointed to with pride. The transformation was not just in the buildings. Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Gulf Life, and Independent Life filled these offices with thousands of clerks, secretaries, and executives, their daily routines powering a boom that rippled through lunch counters and corner shops. Winn-Dixie headquarters kept the downtown lunch crowd lively, while construction crews poured concrete and steel for new schools and shopping centers. The Port of Jacksonville was humming too, moving paper, cars, and cargo to the world. By 1970, census rolls showed more than 529,000 people calling Jacksonville home, a number that would climb by over 40,000 before the decade closed. For many, this was the moment Jacksonville felt like a real city. The towers reflected in the river at sunset, the hum of commerce, the sense that anything was possible if you looked up. But beneath the glass and steel, not everyone shared in the glow. Jet engines rattled windows across Jacksonville, their roar a steady reminder that the city's backbone wasn't just concrete and steel, it was military blue and gray. Naval Air Station Jacksonville and Naval Station Mayport anchored entire neighborhoods, their gates opening each morning to thousands of sailors, pilots, and civilian workers. On any given day, the sight of a carrier at Mayport, its deck bristling with planes, could draw a crowd to the river's edge. Kids would stare, counting helicopters as they lifted off from the Naval Air Station, while the smell of jet fuel and salt water drifted on the wind. For many families, the base wasn't just a workplace, it was a way of life. The commissary and PX offered discounts on everything from groceries to washing machines, a small but steady perk that civilian neighbors quietly envied. The base itself was a city within a city, with its own hospital, churches, bowling alley, and even a golf course. Military paychecks kept local diners busy and landlords happy, especially during times when the national economy wobbled. One retired aviator put it this way: you could always count on the Navy to keep the lights on, even when the rest of the country was in the dark. Deployments shaped the rhythm of entire blocks. A row of houses might fill with young mothers and children overnight, then empty just as quickly when squadrons shipped out. New faces arrived with every transfer, bringing accents from the Midwest or the West Coast, adding a mix of customs and recipes to backyard cookouts. Jacksonville's military presence didn't just bring jobs, it brought movement, stories in motion, and a kind of resilience that settled deep into the city's bones. A house in Arlington or San Marco in the early 70s might set you back $35,000 to $60,000, and for that you got more than a roof, you got a lifestyle. New subdivisions stretched out in Mandarin and Southside where ranch-style homes lined quiet streets, each one a canvas of avocado green and harvest gold. Kitchens gleamed with matching appliances, while dens glowed with wood paneling and the soft pile of shag carpeting underfoot. In older neighborhoods like Riverside and Springfield, craftsman bungalows showed their age with creaking floors and Spanish Revival arches, but front porches and screened-in Florida rooms still drew families out on sticky summer nights. AI air conditioning was a luxury in some places, a must-have in others. Window units rattled in bedrooms, Attic fans whirred, and every so often the smell of cut grass and charcoal drifted in from a neighbor's yard. Beach towns like Jacksonville Beach, Neptune Beach, and Atlantic Beach felt like another world, more surfboard than sedan, where salt hung in the air and flip-flops were practically a dress code. Weekends meant piling into the family car and heading to Regency Square Mall. Opened in 1967, it quickly became the place to see and be seen. Kids clutched orange Julius cups, teenagers drifted between Woolworths and the record store, and parents waited in line at Morrison's cafeteria. On Friday nights, the Jacksonville Coliseum pulsed with concerts. Lynyrd Skynyrd, the Allman Brothers, even Elvis. While drive-in theaters like Beach Boulevard and Normandy filled with families, headlights flickering as the first reel rolled. For some, it was the mall's Midnight Madness sales that stuck in memory, crowds pressing in, tray lines at Morrison's, the thrill of a new pair of bell-bottoms. For others, it was the ritual of the Gator Bowl, the whole city holding its breath on New Year's Day. This was a Jacksonville where comfort, color, and community shaped every ordinary day. On the north side of town, the streets of Durkeeville told a different story from the one reflected in the new downtown towers. Boarded storefronts and cracked sidewalks stood as reminders that not all neighborhoods were swept up in the city's newfound optimism. For families here, the promise of consolidation felt distant. An elder from Durkeeville remembers the tension that lingered after Axe Handle Saturday, when white mobs attacked black demonstrators with bats in Hemming Park in 1960. That memory did not fade with the arrival of new skyscrapers. In the early 70s, school integration brought its own battles, and busing plans sparked protests at Rains and Lehigh, with police cars lining the curbs and parents on both sides anxious about what the next morning might bring. Neglect crept in quietly. Streets in Brentwood and Moncrief, once lively with corner shops and children playing, saw houses boarded up as new expressways carved through the heart of black neighborhoods. Compensation for displaced families rarely matched the value of what was lost. The sense of being left behind was as thick as the sulfur smell that drifted from the St. Regis and Container Corporation paper mills. On muggy days, that odor settled over the city, seeping into clothes and curtains, a constant reminder of the price paid for jobs and industry. The St. Johns River, once a source of pride and livelihood, showed signs of distress. Algae blooms floated on the water surface, fed by runoff from mills and neighborhoods growing faster than the city could keep up. Along the beaches, erosion ate away at dunes, and longtime residents worried that the sand might not last another generation. In Durkeeville and beyond, the reality was clear. Progress came unevenly, and its costs were measured not just in dollars but in trust, health, and the shape of daily life. A gallon of gas cost 38 cents at the start of the decade, but by the winter of 1973, drivers faced prices above 60 cents in lines that wrapped around the block. The oil crisis hit Jacksonville hard, tempers flared at the pump, and rationing signs became a common sight along Phillips Highway and Atlantic Boulevard. For commuters, the daily drive turned unpredictable. The completion of Interstate 95 in 1976 should have eased travel, but rapid growth meant the new lanes filled almost as soon as they opened. Beach traffic jammed the Matthews Bridge and Hart Bridge every summer weekend, with families inching toward the coast in a slow parade of Chevrolets and Plymouths. Jacksonville's port, once known for paper and timber, saw a new flood of imported cars, Datsuns, Volvos, and Toyotas rolling off ships in record numbers. Longshoremen adapted to new rhythms, unloading foreign vehicles alongside American cargo, all while the sulfur tang from the mills drifted across Talleyrand. The city's sprawl put pressure on every system. School buses crawled through construction zones, and police reports tracked a steady rise in car thefts and break-ins, especially downtown after dark. Building codes toughened as hurricane threats loomed, with new subdivisions in Mandarin and Arlington required to meet stricter standards. But not every home could keep up. Power outages after summer storms left some neighborhoods sweating through the night, attic fans spinning uselessly. Jacksonville in the 70s felt both modern and fragile, a city racing ahead but never quite outpacing the strain. Jacksonville's transformation in the 1970s set the stage for today's city. where growth and identity still collide. With over 950,000 residents now, the legacy of rapid change shapes every debate on development, diversity, and preservation. The city's future depends on how it balances progress with remembering what made it unique. Share your memories below.